there on the trade deal. Despite what has been announced by the US president, this is what we are learning. No compromise on farm and dairy products. That is what India is maintaining. All sensitive sectors vis-a-vis India are going to be protected. People first policy remains while deciding on oil purchases. India will continue to buy oil from markets giving the best deal. Pallavi, this is an important aspect that we have to in fact discuss. Our colleague Payal Mehta also continues to be with us. Payal, when India goes on to in fact maintain that the market prices are what are going to determine India's strategy, the strategic interests are paramount. This is a key thing that has been in fact underlined here.
Yes, India has always stood its ground for whatever it stands for. It stands for its people, and that's the reason when the Prime Minister, spoke immediately after the additional tariff was slapped on India, Prime Minister said, if I have to pay a price, I'll pay a price. I won't let my country be compromised. That's been the stated position. Also, if you look back at the negotiation that we've done in the recent, including New Zealand, where dairy is paramount, India has not opened up that sector, keeping in mind that the agriculture is one of those non-compromisable zones and sectors as far as this is really concerned. And agreeing with Aman that, we decide to buy oil from wherever it is available to us for our domestic need in terms of how it is cheap. So I remember one minister here in the stuff when I asked about this oil thing, he told me that, when we look to buy oil, हम oil खरीदने के समय हम उसका रेट देखते हैं, हम किसी की जन्म कुंडली नहीं पढ़ते हैं. So that means, obviously what can stop India from buying the oil which is cheaper and which is cheaply available to them? Nobody can dictate terms to India. That's been the stated position of the government of India. And rightly so, even now, saying whether it is the agriculture sector, whether it is the fisheries, or whether it is the dairy sector, there will be no compromise as far as that is concerned. Once again, the stated position of the government of India being put to the fore.
Right, absolutely. And Pallavi, this was the key point that the opposition was really making in fact, going ahead and attacking the government, where they had spoken about a complete surrender on part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the US president. This was the one aspect, that of farmers' interest, because agriculture was a key term that was mentioned in that Truth Social post by Trump.
So we broke this story a short while back, Graham, so I'm just going to recap it once again, because those who are talking about an 18% slab and saying it's quite high, and it is high in comparison to what it was earlier, what top government sources have told me is that just remember the situation is different now. When we were negotiating with America earlier, at that point of time, we did not have a free trade agreement or a bilateral agreement with any other countries. We now have with New Zealand, we have with EU, we have with EFTA, we have with UK. So we have different options as well. It's not that we have only the American market. We have other markets also which we can look out to. That's one. Second, India's position has always been and consistently remained this, that while we will selectively open up our market to some of the agro products from other countries, it cannot be those sectors which are labor intensive and which will damage our farmers. For example, American corn can come to Indian companies. That's not going to threaten our varieties of maize. Certain varieties of rice can come in from America to India. That will not affect the main bulk of rice that we are producing over here. So these factors have been kept in mind when we stitched up the other FTAs. These factors will also be kept in mind. When you talk about oil, the reason why we opted for Russian oil was, one, it was cheaper at that point of time. Second, Venezuelan oil at that point of time was sanctioned oil. All that sanction has now been removed. But today we are using or not using Russian oil is not going to be dictated by America. As it suits us, as the pricing benefits us, we'll keep on going for the Russian oil.
Right. Thank you so much for that perspective. I'd like to thank all my colleagues for joining us. We are very shortly going into this break, but this is what has come about so far as per government sources, that it does not really appear that the US deal with India will be extractive in nature, and that's why no compromise on farm and dairy or agriculture sectors will be done by the government. And also India will continue that people first policy when it is about deciding on oil purchase. The strategy will be buying from only non-sanctioned entities, and this is also a key aspect that one must underline. India will choose the markets that provide the best prices and continue to follow international law and best practices. Also, the incremental purchase and investment in big US sectors over 6 to 7 years will add up. And that is what, in fact, the President of the United States was also referring to when he spoke about the 500 billion US dollar engagement and investment that India must do with the US. We will keep an eye on this big story and all the developments associated, but right now we go into a very, very short break.